Welcome to the Cosmic Series, brought to you by XFO Intelligence. I'm going to take you somewhere most people have never seriously considered going. Not in fiction, not in a movie, but in a very real, very strategic sense. We're talking about the moon, not as a backdrop for a science fiction story, but as a destination, a private destination. One that, if we're honest about 2026, is closer to being accessible to non-government actors than at any point in human history. The episode today is called Beyond the Gravity Well, a blueprint for private lunar access in the commercial space age. Here's the paradox we're living in. Commercial heavy-lift rockets have transformed the economics of reaching low Earth orbit. Robotic lunar landings are becoming almost routine. And yet, if you ask who can actually put a human being on the surface of the moon and bring them back safely, the answer is still only nation-states and mega-corporations with government backing. True, independent, private crewed lunar surface access remains off the table. Why? Because the barrier isn't the rocket anymore. That problem is largely solved. The barrier is systemic, economic, regulatory, and architectural. Three things block private individuals or small groups. First, the physics of scale. To escape Earth's gravity well, you need roughly 9.4 kilometers per second of delta V. The propellant fractions required to achieve this, land on the moon and return, staggering. Personally funded, outside a large organization, the numbers don't work. Second, the certification cliff. Human rating a spacecraft costs hundreds of millions, often billions, in validation. You can't spread those costs over a small flight manifest. It's a brutal wall. Third, and this one surprises people, the regulatory void. Under the Outer Space Treaty and FAA licensing frameworks, crewed deep space missions require corporate-scale compliance. Liability insurance for non-governmental entities without state sponsorship? It simply doesn't exist yet. Most private attempts fail because they try to replicate Apollo, build a smaller NASA, own everything from Earth to the surface. That's exactly the wrong approach. The insight that changes everything is this: stop trying to own the whole journey. Focus on the part nobody else is building. The architecture that makes this possible is the Orbital Handoff, centered on a vehicle concept called the Modular Attachable Lander, or the MAL. Here's how it works. Crew and payload are carried to lunar orbit by a commercial heavy-lift provider, something in the class of a Starship human landing system. They carry you to the moon's doorstep, then your vehicle takes over. The private module detaches in lunar orbit, performs the descent, supports a 3 to 5 day surface stay, and returns the crew to the waiting orbital vehicle. That commercial ship brings everyone home. You've just reduced private technical scope by 60%. No Earth escape propulsion, no high-energy Earth re-entry heat shield, no long-duration transit life support. This isn't giving up. It's radical engineering discipline. Now the technical specifics. Propulsion, Methalox engines, methane and liquid oxygen for fuel commonality with the commercial lift vehicle. Same propellant means in-orbit refueling support becomes possible. Structure, inflatable habitat modules for the surface stay. High volume to mass ratio. You get the pressurized volume you need while minimizing launch mass. Shielding. Dual-use water. It serves as radiation protection during solar events and as consumable mass for life support. Every kilogram earns its place twice. And redundancy. Dual-engine ascent stages with cross-feed capability. When it's time to leave the lunar surface, you cannot have a single point failure. Let's talk money. The traditional venture capital model is unsuited to deep space infrastructure. Timelines are too long. Capital intensity is too high. The return horizon doesn't match VC fund structures. The better model is a special-purpose vehicle consortium. Instead of one billionaire writing an enormous check, you aggregate capital from multiple ultra-high-net-worth individuals as equity partners. They diversify financial risk, and crucially, they become the initial customer base, not just investors, the first passengers, and you build dual-use revenue streams. Phase 1. The lander operates as a robotic cargo delivery system, competing for NASA commercial lunar payload services contracts delivering to commercial outposts. The hardware flies, generates revenue, and proves itself before any human is on board. Phase 2. Once human rating is achieved, you transition to crewed transport. Certification is funded by cargo revenue. The manifest is not empty. On regulation. This is where well-funded efforts go wrong. They treat compliance as an adversary, that framing as a mistake. The strategy is regulatory alignment. 3 moves. 1. License parasitism. Operate under the commercial lift provider's existing mission license where possible. Less duplication, less cost. 2. Space Act agreements with NASA. Position the private lander as a contingency, a supplement to Artemis, not a competitor. That framing provides political cover and access to government safety standards. 3. Advocate for liability caps and mutual insurance structures across a consortium of private space entities. The roadmap. Years 1 and 2. Robotic validation. Fly a robotic MAL on commercial rideshare to lunar orbit. Prove precision landing and ascent without crew risk. Years 3 and 4. Human rating demo. Uncrewed mission with full life support active. Dock to a certified commercial vehicle. Validate environmental control and abort systems. Year 5. First private crewed mission. 3 days on the surface. The objective is safety and data, not science. Year 6 and beyond. Operational cadence. Regular flights. Growing capability. Sustainable private presence. 2 final principles. Just-in-time engineering. Don't finalize the vehicle design until the commercial lift vehicle's real capabilities are proven. Wait, verify, commit. And radical transparency. Publish safety data openly. In an industry where one high-profile failure can set back private spaceflight by a decade, transparency is a strategic asset, not just good PR. Here's the bottom line. The dream of personal lunar access is no longer blocked by physics. We know how to get there. What stands between a private individual and the surface of the moon today is institutional architecture. The way we've organized the economic, regulatory, and technical systems around the problem. The Modular Attachable Lander Consortium model threads the needle. It leverages the existing ecosystem rather than competing with it. It aligns regulatory incentives rather than fighting them. And it creates economic viability through dual-use hardware. Within the next decade, the lunar surface can stop being a destination exclusively for governments and become a domain for private exploration. And that changes everything about who we are as a species and where we go next. That's the episode. This is the Cosmic series from XFO Intelligence. If this kind of deep strategic thinking is why you're here, please like this episode, share it with someone who deserves to think bigger, and subscribe so you never miss what we put out next. We read every message. Reach out at xfointelligence@gmail.com. That's xfointelligence@gmail.com. With your thoughts, questions, or ideas. Until next time, keep looking up.